Hello and welcome to Crypto Weeklies. In this video, we discuss MicroStrategy, previously known as MicroStrategy, now known as Strategy Inc., and its ticker MSTR. None of the content financial advice. Let's get started. MSTR right now trades at around $118, and this chart over here on TradingView, this is the weekly price of MSTR, and essentially since 2020 August, since they started buying Bitcoin on their balance sheet. In the next 300 weeks or so, the price action has now come to that level, the green line over here, which is the 300 week simple moving average. Historically speaking, accumulating in the bear market below 300 week simple moving average, not the worst idea. For example, in the last bear market of 2022, back then the 300 week simple moving average was $25. The eventual bottom was at around $15 roughly speaking. Again, ignoring this wicks over here, the candle bodies over here at around roughly $14 to $15. And in terms of percentage, that was about 47% drawdown from that 300 week simple moving average at that point in time. This time around, the 300 week simple moving average right now is currently at around $117. Let's say if there is a there is a breakdown from here, which again could happen right now, or let's say after 2 to 3 months from here. There are two possible scenarios. I don't believe that MSTR will bottom for this bear market at 300 week simple moving average, as there were significant rallies from, let's say, $13 to about $550. That kind of a move in the euphoria phases of the bull market gets eventually punished in the panic case of the bear market as well. So a panic drop for MSTR would likely be somewhere close to this white line over here, or in terms of the 300 week simple moving average, at least 25% below the 300 week moving average. That at that time, the panic case for MSTR would have been manifested. At least there would be some panic in the market where instead of just a negative sentiment, a panic sentiment such as narratives which are largely negative for MSTR would start coming out in the short term. And usually when the fear is maximum, again, not financial advice, that's when the market is closer to the bottom. And for that purposes, let's start with a 25% drawdown from the 300 week moving average, assuming that the support for the 300 week moving average falls right now. So if in that scenario a 25% drawdown from that point is at around $85, that was always my base case. If you have been following this YouTube channel, the first scenario that we established for MSTR, so you can check out all of the YouTube related videos, that MSTR related videos that we made on the homepage of the website. This is the website cryptoweeklies.com, link on the bottom of your screen. That's my own website. If you click on this YouTube at the rate Crypto Weeklies, you will find MSTR related content, and if you just click over enter this over here, you could see that the panic case for MSTR was established at around $85 across several models over the course of the bear market. You can check out all of these MSTR related videos, not in just the bear market, but also covered this in the bull market as well. So where can MSTR go from here? The first case is that drop to 25%. Let's say that happens right now, then that drop would be at around $86. If let's say MSTR finds support at the 300 week and then gets pushed ahead, and in the later half of 2026, maybe closer to August time period, July to August time period, that's when again 300 week, instead of being at around $115, it goes to somewhere close to $130, and then 25% drop from that point would be at around $95, which was the optimistic case for MSTR bottom. On the other hand, if let's say there is a panic case of 40% drawdown from that eventual 300 week based bottom, if that occurs when the 300 week is at around 300 week simple moving average is at around $130, and a 40% drop occurs, then the $75 or roughly speaking $77-78 MSTR could come into play, which would be exactly where the 2021 November peak for MSTR was. Again, arguably the first peak in 2021, like it was in 2024 this time around in November, was the euphoria peak, and the more sustained peak was at that November 2021, or for this time around at around $440 in the July 2025 rally. So if that kind of a scenario happens where the bottom gets closer or the price action gets closer to that $75, that could be an opportune accumulation zone in the bear market. Right now, as we compare this bear market to the last ones, in terms of the monthly candles, we are at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th month of continuous bearishness. The last time around in 2022, if we were to look at similar position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, the 9th month was bullish. That means the next month in April, if it's a bullish candle, again the size was very minimal in the larger downtrend, and then after that 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 more bearish months, but largely the damage was already behind us when that green candle was arrived, and again major drop had already occurred in May 2022. If let's say February 2026 drop is anything similar to what it was in May 2022, then although there might be some slight lower lows in later half of the year, and then that's the scenario when the price action instead of bottoming at 40% from the 300 week, it might bottom at around 25% from that 300 week, where the 300 week is at around $130, and then the $95 for MSTR with a 25% drop. That's where again it gets really close to that area where the low is just barely lower than what it was in February 2026. That's the optimistic scenario. Nonetheless, if you were to tune out the noise across multiple years, and let's start with the last bear market, which was, I think, MSTR's first bear market since they started buying Bitcoin and becoming more of a Bitcoin strategy company. In the last bear market, even accumulating below the 200 week simple moving average, where this blue line, whenever it turns white in color, that white thick line, accumulating below that, although does not get you closest to the bottom, but was not the worst DCA time period. Nonetheless, we are in that zone. So again, it doesn't make too much of a sense to be too much bearish at this point, with the outlook that MSTR again manages to survive this bear market like it did back in 2022 as well. If that hypothesis does not change, and if let's say there is a recovery in 2027, 2028 time period, and again MSTR makes another cycle high from like it did from 2021 to 2024, 2025 time period, and again even though that cycle high is not as lucrative as it was, let's say we ignore this high over here and just try to draw a straight line from instead of a slightly diminished straight line over here, which again may or may not happen this time around with that diminished return coming into picture. Nonetheless, that level for MSTR for the next peak could be somewhere close to $800, and if we try to be even more bearish from that point in time, trying to join with a from the midpoint instead of the euphoria ceilings, and try to get the 2021 peak in November and the 2025 peak in October, where Bitcoin peaked. In that scenario, the peak for MSTR could be at around $750 in 2027-2028 time period. So again, not all hope is lost at this point. but it's just a matter of surviving yet another bear market. If it manages to do that, then we can look at our own again website in terms of the compound annual growth rate based models for MSTR. These dedicated models under this is under ETFs and proxies section. We'll start with the forecast graph and then the retirement model. The forecast graph says that if there is 3 to 4 more months of bearishness in 2026, then the support for MSTR is closer to $80-$85. In the next bull run, the first major target is the 2 standard deviation bull case without much of a euphoria in the later half of 2027-2028. The price action could go to $850 in 2027-2028. Again, these models stretch only 6 months out into the future, but as we know, the likelihood of 2026 being a bull market year is very unlikely, and the stretch goal is always going to be higher for MSTR, as it has exhibited since August 2020 that performance where each bullish year is again 5x of the past market cycle peak. So roughly speaking, $100 to $500, and then again a 5x would be $2,500. But that's again does not account for diminished volatility to the upside. So the 2 standard deviation peak forecast for MSTR for 2027-2028 is again at around $850. So these are the longer term models. The compound annual growth rate based model, let's say if 2027 right now, if the bottom for MSTR in 2026 is at around $97 with a growth rate of 45% year over year, that gets MSTR price to $300. If there is some euphoria blow off top scenario in 2029, the rough scenario for MSTR is $326. That would be a lower high than the 2024 high, which was at around $540. But that's just identifying the trajectory with 55% growth year over year and one bear market drawdown of roughly speaking 50% in the bear market year or 60% in the bear market year to account for the general directionality. Nonetheless, in the longer term, at closer to 2040, which is roughly speaking 14-15 years from now, both of these models suggest that price of MSTR would be closer to about $1,000, which again, if the bottom for MSTR is at around $100, that's roughly speaking a 10x in these 15 years. The DCA model helping identify the phase of the market cycle right now. Instead of looking at the regression based fair value, we look at the bottom regression based model to identify if the price action has, again, even if we go by this dotted green line as the fair value of MSTR and assume that the entirety was just a accumulation related bubble, nonetheless accumulating below the green line, which is currently at around $155, not the worst idea per these models. With that, I would like to conclude by saying MSTR right now, with being closer to 300-week simple moving average and also below the 200-week simple moving average, with the hope that the drawdown from that eventual breakdown from the 300-week simple moving average is roughly speaking 25% the optimistic case and 40% the pessimistic case. The range for MSTR bottom is somewhere between $95 and $75, with a midpoint of Confluence at around $85. With that, I hope I made my points clear. None of the content financial advice. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give a like and subscribe, and also check out these charts on my website cryptoweeklies.com. Hope you have a nice day and hope to see you again tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.